call the meeting to order at 6:02, December 5th. First on the agenda is the call meeting to order, or roll call. Jamie,
Darren Mercer.
Tom Pfaff.
Regina Verdell.
Approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion made.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We didn't have any old business. The only thing, I guess, that was brought up briefly was on the signage. We did get that passed. That was last meeting, correct? We passed, approved the Main Street Park sign and also one entry sign. So, appreciate the beautification committee and Lori and Jackie working on that. On new business, I wanted to just give a quick update on the zoning ordinance update. Lori, Charlie, and myself met with Randy, and we got him kind of up to speed on kind of where we've been for the last year and a half on that. It seems like we kind of know where to go from here. What we discussed was, possibly going with we were talking about a standalone ordinance versus being involved, actually being updated on the county's ordinance. But basically what's probably the most easiest way for us to do it is going to be a standalone ordinance, but we're looking into that a little bit more. I followed up with Justin after the meeting. They're scheduled to get their rough draft, I think, just for viewing to their town council in January. So they're a little bit ahead of us, but I think they're working. It's good though too, because they're working through some kinks as well, because it's kind of a team effort. So
Who is Justin?
Justin Keel with the town of La Crosse.
Okay.
But I think in our meeting yesterday, I think everyone was on board that it's a good thing. It's needed. There's obviously going to be a lot of review and updating with the town and getting it out, public notices and everything that's required there. But it's going to be beneficial for us, and it is a cost-effective solution. One question we had in our meeting was we needed to follow up with the county and LaPorte, Michigan City to see if they actually meet or how often they meet to update the ordinance. Because if they do make changes to the bulk part of it, we might want to incorporate. We're going to have to incorporate those on our own. So it would be nice if we could be plugged in there a little bit when they do make if they do make a major change or tweak to it, that we can kind of keep up with them. So it is kind of universal. It is very, like we've talked about in the past, it's very unique that LaPorte County has that. I don't think any other county in the region does it that way, which makes it easier for development and easier for any type of builder or resident living in the area to alter their property. So that's all we had there. The next steps is just to follow up, and then we have to continue to go through the ordinance and make updates and changes. There's going to be a lot of tweaking and language that we have to pull out that's in LaPorte counties, like especially when it's designating like Michigan City, we're going to have to replace it with the town of Westville and stuff like that. So
let me ask you one thing about that.
Yes.
What role has the county played with us in doing this, as far as having meetings and things?
Basically, we kind of approached. I talked to, I think it was 2 years ago. We just had a brief conversation, let them know what our interest was, but beyond that, there's not been very much involvement. It's kind of been all on the small towns. I think the end goal is, we discussed this yesterday, once we do pass this zoning ordinance, to get this up in front of the county to show that this is what the small towns are doing. The more small towns that do this, I think it's going to make it the county might be more attractive to the county at that point to incorporate a small town section if they do update their ordinance.
Okay, so once we get this done, then we're going to present it to the town and to the county. And are we expecting anything from them except their blessing?
Well, what I would like to see is on their zoning map, since our designations are going to match their designations, I think it's appropriate for us to be updated on their zoning map for the county, because they got the county zoning, Michigan Cities and LaPorte's incorporated into that map. All the municipalities should be too. So that way, when a developer or any person's trying to change a zoning, they can see town of Westville, here's how they're zoned, if they're doing especially if it's within our buffer, I think that's gonna help us with the buffer, so they understand what we're already zoned, so we're not putting an industrial site right next to a housing development and so forth.
Do you think that they're wrong with that, you feel?
We'll see. I think if there's enough small towns on board, I think we have a little bit more. I think we'll need probably, 4 to 5 small towns to incorporate this for it to actually be.
And we have lacrosse, we have,
Us, we've been talking with Kingsbury briefly, they have interest in it. I think it would be good for us to reach out to maybe Kingsford Heights.
okay,
Wanata may have interest. We have to I think once we get a final product done, and we can demonstrate this is, the process, this is what we did, and then show both the final product, I think that'll help other small towns come on board. That'll alleviate a lot of costs too,
Yeah.
if it's already done.
so right now, the two that are most serious is going to be lacrosse and that,
Yes.
okay.
Any other questions on that? So, it's been a journey. I think, for 2019, I think it's definitely a priority for us to get that accomplished this year.
Well, I thank you for doing all that. You know,
Lori and Charlie.
Lori's been tremendous,
Yeah,
too.
Lori's been very involved with it. Charlie's been, his head in that quite a bit too.
Yeah,
So.
Charlie.
It's been a big advantage having Charlie going as our building inspector to go through and actually, he knows what we're struggling with in our current ordinance, and as we adopt a new ordinance, we'll be able to make sure we don't have non-conforming lots and so forth. So I think a lot of people were impacted when we did update previously 10 years ago, and their lots moved from conforming to non-conforming. So we're hoping we can clean up some of that. So that's it on the zoning. The beautification, I just put that on there, but there isn't probably much. Well, we don't have anybody to hear from that group, so we can pass that up. Do you want to talk briefly about annexation?
Well, this is just the beginning stages. We're trying to get a meeting together with both representatives and the senator and talk with them about how we could go about making some annexation happen south of Westville. And, it would be an ideal place to have some industrial growth. And, we'll just have to see, but we're reaching out to our legislators and so we can contact. Darren's made some tremendous contacts with Jim Presley about doing things with it. I just think it's so important that they get on board with knowing what we've got in mind. Not that we've done anything, but this is our interest.
Yeah. One, it's good that they know our interest
Yeah.
and what we're going for.
And it sounds like Jim Presley explained their bill that they want to introduce something to do with friendly annexation.
Friendly annexation. And Pat Boyd, who obviously is brand new, she's truly the newbie on the team. When I explained to her what we were looking at and what, would be an ultimate goal is to get some industrial in the southern part. And she said, I don't know anything about it, don't know a whole lot about it, but she said it certainly sounds interesting, and she said, I want to hear what you guys are doing. She made a comment to me that Westville is where it's going to happen.
And you're 100% right.
I think everybody knows that.
And I know we had talked about annexing south, and not to get the cart before the horse, but I would love to get up to University Park Apartments. We already have services up there, and if we could get from University Park Apartments south, and then from Nash Finch north, I think it would be a substantial improvement to the town.
Well, I agree with you completely, and that was discussed when we were here with Charlie and Lori and Mike and me going ahead and taking on the conservancy. When that all came about, they did sign off that they would not remonstrate in the future. Annexation was proposed to them, they would not remonstrate. So that's truly a possibility.
I think it would be a huge benefit, and Regina and I had discussed Well, at my evaluation, we had discussed my thoughts for a strategic plan for the police department, which is where the annexation started with. And come the first of the year, my plans are to approach the town board with a strategic plan for the police department so that we're prepared, at least in writing, as growth happens.
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts are that I want to change the police department from a 4-man police department to an 8-man police department. There'll be a chief, an assistant chief, a full-time detective, and then a patrol sergeant with his patrolmen, 4 patrolmen. So you would have 4 patrolmen working 12s on a pitman schedule with your patrol sergeant being the relief to cover vacations and sick days. And I think that 8-man department would cover Westville as they grow. I mean, as long as if we can put it in ordinance, not that we have to fill the positions until we get the tax dollars, obviously, but it was so simple for us to move to a 4-man department this time because it was already in ordinance. It was already in the works. So all we had to do was say, okay, let's do it. We've got the money, let's do it. And I think if we build that into the plan now, with the positions already identified, their job description already identified, and have everything ready to go, when the tax dollars come in, the loan payments paid off, and things are looking up, then whoever the marshal is at that time, whether it's 10 years or 20 years or 25, they say, listen, you know, we were looking ahead in 2019, let's start doing it. We've got it in the works, we're ready, and all they have to do is start hiring people.
I think that's a really great point, because like if we don't look ahead 10 years from now, we won't be ready. I mean, we don't want to be in a reactive mode every time something comes up.
And that's what strategic planning is all about. It doesn't mean we're going to do it today.
No.
Yeah.
It means this is what our goals are. It means we're looking into the future, and we're covering all of our bases. And that's not uncommon for communities to do that. I don't know that we've been real good about that in Westville, but we need to start. We need to make it happen. And the other part of this is that with the new development that's going to be taking over where what Spartan Nash is.
Mhm.
I think Norton Point.
You know, we already know that Dollar General is going to put in their distribution there. We know that their warehouse is going to be there. They're going to be, that's just one of many, because they're going to be subletting that out
Sure.
to many vendors. And so that means that there's going to be even more opportunity for you to have calls for service. And if we go north with annexation, if we go south with annexation, then it's a given. We're going to get taxed at some point, maybe not in the very beginning, but at some point we're going to start getting revenue. We're going to get immediate revenue from utilities, immediate. Going north and taking on the Conservancy, that is going to start immediately showing up on our books as tax-based property tax too. So, I mean, the income is going to come with it. When you annex in, the income is automatic. So that gives us an opportunity to actually put our strategic plan when we have it, get it in place, and start doing our planning. And ultimately, I can see the police department being an 8-man in a heartbeat when that happens. Because we'll need it, because you've got the mutual aid for Purdue.
Yes.
And you're going to be, we're right there. You know, we're just across the street from you. And I think it's the only way that Westville can actually grow. I mean, that's the corridor. Always has been the corridor. People have always wanted to maintain the downtown, and they can. They can keep this quaint, vintage-looking downtown the way it is. There's a lot of draw. And I will have to say the market on Main Street probably is going to be a success.
Sure.
It's probably going to make a big draw happen here. And years ago in Madison, Indiana, any of you been to Madison, Indiana? It's on Ohio River and close to Kentucky. You just go across the river, you're in Kentucky. And that's where they have the speedboat races. And they decided that they were gonna have something similar to Market on Main, and they called it the Chautauqua. And it was juried vendors, and juried artists. Started out very, very small. There were a few people, I remember when it first started, a few people came and wanted to have, it's similar to, it looked like a flea market. And they said, no, we're not doing flea market, you know, so they made them leave. If you want to have flea market, go to another part of the town, you know, but you're not doing it here. This, and it was right on the river. It is huge. It is, and such a draw from that area, and from Indianapolis down to Louisville, Kentucky. It's a huge draw. I can see that happening if it's done right.
Mhm.
That has to be done right. You have to make sure that you have the vendors that are quality vendors that people want to come and see their product and spend their money. So there's just so many things we can do. Keep the downtown the way it is. It's going to be controlled growth. That was one of the things years and years ago that our community, the citizens in our community said they wanted was controlled growth. It's going to happen. And your strategic plan is absolutely the perfect plan growth. Perfect when you get it together.
I was looking at a map of, like an aerial geographical map of the Westville area, because, and I wasn't here, so I'm only, if I speak wrong, I apologize, but years ago, I was told that they used the railroad bed to connect, to bring New Durham Estates into the town limits.
They did.
So I was looking at how that rail bed goes north. And it's owned by CSX, and then there's a short little portion that they actually sold. And then it goes back to CSX and it ends right there at University Park somewhere. You lose track of it.
And an individual owns it.
Yeah. And it was purchased for pennies. I mean, it was like a ridiculously low amount of money. So if CSX sold that little bit to that one owner, that one landowner, is that something that the town could do? How would annexation be affected if we actually had stock in the game, if we actually owned property, that railroad bed?
It would help us because with friendly annexation, if you have, looking at the plot of land you want to annex, if we are 1/4 contiguous to that, then that, and we can come to good terms, which we would with the Conservancy, because we're not going to remonstrate, remember? So we would have, it could be a very friendly annexation, and it could just happen in a heartbeat if we own that. And that's the key.
Mhm.
The contiguous placement is going to be 1/4, I think, up to 1/4 of the property you want to annex.
Yeah, if you look at Beacon, the little portion of land that they sold those landowners, it was less than $10,000.
I was wondering if,
They sold.
yeah. 'Cause I know like some of those properties, isn't it if you're on the railroad bed, it reverts, some of that property reverted back to the original owners from the Monon. They used to be the Monon, right? So it reverts back to the original owners if they wanted it. Some people, isn't that how it works for a railroad?
You know, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know about the reverting back.
Weird.
It makes sense that it would,
Yeah.
but I can't tell you that I know for sure.
Yeah, but that'd be a question.
Charlie would know that.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing to look into, and it's probably worth.
I think now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and we get hit pretty hard with, it's not that we're required to, but we're so close, it's almost like the guys feel obligated to. We already get hit pretty hard with activity in University Park Apartments. I mean, we were just up there today for a lockout because county was just swamped. You know, and I had some poor single mother up there with her car keys locked in her car, and I'm like, I can't just let her sit. So we're already going there. So we might as well work to get them into the town limits so that we're getting those tax dollars so that they can get a better service.
Right.
Not that LaPorte County is bad, but
We're right here.
Yeah, I mean, we're right here.
And then the other part of that, Tom, looking at utilities, I don't know for sure what they're paying now to the Conservancy for the utilities, but I'm sure that our pricing is going to be much better.
I think they're paying like 3 times higher than what they pay now. Well, I mean, we would be 3 times lower than what they pay now.
So that would be another reason to have, and make it much more friendly,
Mhm.
annexation, because that would be a selling point to the members, to the homeowners there. And they already have their homeowners association, it's
Mhm.
in place. So that's gonna help us a lot.
Now, why was it that when it was the very first meeting we had for our comprehensive plan, and it was the only meeting that Steve Turner came to? Why did he have such a negative outlook on Purdue being part of the town? I mean, they're a state facility, so it's not like their taxes would go up. Do we know why he was against it?
He's always been against
I don't know.
Because, I mean, I can't see a negative impact it would have, because there would be exempt from taxes because they're a state college, right? It's not like they're
it.
going to,
We would never get any money from Purdue.
no.
Ever.
Well, but I don't think we've ever looked at it from the standpoint of what that would mean, or that would be something we'd have to. It's something we need to evaluate. If we're looking at future and growth, and we need to start looking at that. I think we've always kind of stayed focused on us here, but we need to look at our surrounding areas and what impact that would have on the town, and how do we, when we do grow and get to that point, because
Well,
it's going to eventually happen.
It is, I was gonna say, it's inevitable that's gonna happen. So, but as far as I can remember, I've always heard that Steve Turner has made the comment, never, ever will Purdue come into Westville, never.
I don't see a negative side to it for them. I don't see a negative impact it would have on them at all.
And I don't know, I have no idea what that's about.
I mean, it would double their police force without costing them a penny.
Sure.
I don't know. I think it's something we evaluate and look into, have further discussion on. I think, I think Westville, as we demonstrate our vision and outlook and seriousness, I think that's going to help big partners come on board. I think
I agree.
when we show plans and strategy and, we show them that we're a player, I think that's a big part of it.
Now, I do know that Mike was gonna talk to, on the southern side, a homeowner, or landowner. One isn't an estate, so that's the one that's more west. And then the one between the estate and that is contiguous to Spartan Nash property is one Mike was gonna talk to. Have you heard, has he talked to him?
No, he hasn't said anything.
Okay. So he was gonna talk about that and just get a feel of what it would be to, how they would think about it, annexing them. And we looked to see if it would raise their taxes. If we would annex them, how much would it raise their taxes for the sole purpose? We're not going to be building residences there. This is something for the industrial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe manufacturing even.
When I think, as we are looking at this and having that zoning ordinance update, I think it's going to add a lot of, I think it's going to really help that if the development happens, that we have a good ordinance in place. Because I think we have to show why it's more attractive to be part of the municipality versus being off on your own.
Right.
Or being part of it. We have to show it's more valuable to property owners to be in the town versus outside the town.
When I had called Jim Pressel, I called him initially because, well, I wanted to explain to him, I wanted to express my thoughts on the police department and the way things are working with, like right now, MVH is busting at the seams because of the gas tax. So we have the gas tax, and eventually here in the next couple of years, we're going to be paving roads that don't need paved because the money's got to be used to pave roads. All the gas taxes go into MVH. So my initial thought of calling Jim Pressel was to say, is there anything we can do for police departments? Is there a liquor tax? Is there anything that we can put in place that is going to be a steady source of income for police departments across the state? Because police departments are a money pit. I mean, we are. We cost a ton of money. We don't provide a product, per se, that somebody can touch. Like they can drive down a brand new road and see that they're not going through potholes, but there's nothing tangible that a police department does. You know, they just assume that the police are always there. And I thought that maybe I could kind of talk him into some kind of a tax on something that would be a steady income. And he shied away from that pretty quick, and that's when he brought up the friendly annexation. And I have a feeling that's gonna be about our only route for any kind of steady source of income for the police department.
And I think it's real interesting that he brings that up at the time that we've been talking about it.
Mhm.
Because it's like it's just almost in sync.
And he's definitely, I looked at his history of, since he's been in, and he has authored or co-authored at least 2 or 3, bills that are very law enforcement friendly. So he does have a concern for law enforcement. And I've known him on a personal level. I've known some of the work that he's done actually for somebody who, is renting a building from him. He's a very decent person.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. And so I trusted him and wanted to call him. But I think that's gonna be the route we'll have to take. I don't think we'll get anybody to jump on any bandwagon for any kind of liquor tax or anything. I was kinda shooting for the stars, and he kinda cut me off real quick.
You don't ask,
Yeah, I don't know that taxes would be the answer. There might be another pot of money that could be shared.
Now, I did tell him that when I found out that they had a study group for the legalization of marijuana, when I had read the article that Indiana put together a study group for that, I did call him and say, if you guys, I said, I know it's coming. I'm not here to tell you it's right or wrong, but when it does happen, you have to include a law enforcement tax on that, because there's all kinds of training we're gonna have to have. We're gonna have to be taught on how to deal with intoxicated drivers, not on alcohol, but on marijuana. Everybody's gonna have to be trained on that, because it's gonna be common. And that's extra money that we have to spend every year for that much more training.
Well, I think Karen Talion has been the one in this area to really champion that. And last 3 or 4 years, she's brought it before it's died, but
Mhm.
she's the one that I think mastered the bill. And she's getting some more momentum now. She's getting a lot more momentum in the region
Mhm.
to make that happen. So I think it's going to happen. I think we'll see it. I don't know if it'll be this time, but it's coming.
I'll keep making phone calls.
Well, I think that's a good thing to do, and I'm glad you're reaching out to the representatives.
I do too. I think it needs to be
Otherwise,
on
they
there.
might not know the concern or the impact. Who knows? That might be the only,
Mhm.
people aren't out in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for reaching out to them.
Sure.
I know Michigan they just did a recent change, right?
Yeah.
Sure
So
does.
I don't know how they're getting funded. That'd be interesting.
When does it go into effect? Is it January 1 or is it already in effect?
I think January 1, but that's how I took it.
That's how I did too.
It'd be interesting to see how their law enforcement are gonna handle that. I don't know if you have any connections in Michigan or.
I really don't, and not much. I mean, every once in a while you run across somebody who'll call and need something, but.
Not very much.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess once your neighboring states are doing stuff, it eventually.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming.
There's nothing.
Illinois, Michigan. What's Ohio?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
I haven't either.
And then, one other thing I wanted, for 2019, I think, we're strategic planning is big on the police department. Thanks for bringing that up. The annexation, I think it's important for us to look at that as how we're gonna grow. The zoning ordinance, I think it's critical we get that done. Is there any other, those are like really big ticket items, big projects to take on. I think utilities, the same thing, we gotta look at that, growth of utilities and how that's gonna happen and how to make that happen.
Mhm.
The big thing with utilities is there's a large cost associated with running. I mean, that's what I've kind of realized, between, we're talking with North Point, WCC, and then just even, the recent example, South Coast tying in, the cost impact of bringing people onto utilities is very expensive anymore. It's not getting cheaper, so.
Has anybody given any straight answer on what the correctional center's intentions are? I mean, they're building an entire new facility. They're either gonna build a water plant or they're gonna come on board with us.
Yeah.
Has anybody said what they've?
We're still in ongoing negotiations. We just had a meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Has there been any talk with the group that's been meeting that seems to be such a pause in wanting to make anything happen? I mean, it's kind of long and drawn out.
Yeah.
just say, give them a date. Either you're with us or you're not, and we go on. We've wasted a lot of time and spent a lot of attorney fees.
I think we did that.
Okay, and what did they do?
We didn't get a response,
Okay, then why are we still meeting with them?
because I think we invested a lot of time in it.
And you don't want to quit at this point?
No, I think it's important. Personally, I struggle giving up on it because it doesn't make any logical sense to not make this happen.
But you do know that you're dealing with a government, a
Yes.
governmental entity, and they never make sense.
Yes, but I always feel like
He said yes with a smile.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it, we know that.
But I think there's got to be a win-win somehow. There's got to be a way to make it happen. Where maybe there is always that chance there's no way it's going to benefit both. But
Is the hang up? I heard that they wanted a set fee.
They do.
well, there's a lot of things. Well, WCC is looking at the standpoint of what's best for me. We're looking at it. Well, this is what's best for us.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find that happy medium to where it benefits taxpayers, utility customers in the town without a huge amount of risk, but still benefits WCC. We're trying to work through what that actually looks like. And there's been a lot of changes. I mean, WCC's going through a lot of changes, like even their flows have drastically changed from 2015. Our original flow data is now their average is like 100,000 gallons less per day.
Yeah.
That's 3 million gallons a year. That's a huge impact of our original rate study.
Sure.
So that's a lot of the stuff we're evaluating now. And then looking at it, not just from a first cost perspective, but looking at it from a long-term perspective for them, helping them understand what life cycle cost actually is, and that's stuff we gotta look at, but it's you're working with a lot of different people.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I feel like the last meeting we had, we got more information out on expectations. I feel like to this point, we really hadn't received much expectations on what they were actually looking for. I feel like we got more. I would like to have more information, like where exactly do we need to be at for it to be beneficial to you so we can see, hey, this is going to work or not. That'd be the easiest thing. But I think for them, on their end, they see it as it's probably cheaper for them to operate, to keep it themselves versus paying a fee. But that's one thing we're working through. They're trying. I think no matter what, if they tie on to us, it's probably going to have a little bit of a larger cost impact to them. But we try to make that as minimal as possible with seeing a rate reduction.
In the long run, would it really be less expensive for them to?
Probably not the long. No, not the long run.
I mean, long term, they're talking all the licensing they have to have, all the testing, the employees.
Yeah.
All the maintenance on all the equipment that we do in our plant already that they're going to have to do.
There hasn't been a life cycle study done. The only thing that's really been evaluated is like a first cost perspective. So that was one of the things that was mentioned in our previous meeting was what about life cycle costs? That was one of the things.
And either way, they're going to have to build a plant. They're either going to build it here and connect to ours, or they're going to build it there.
Yeah.
So either way, they're going to build a plant.
I agree. And I do feel like we have a lot more information to go off of. Now we just got to get everyone honed in together. There's a lot more conversation. We've had more conversations happen in the last 2 weeks than we've had in the last year. So it seems, I think everything's more is out on the table, but we're still trying to pull more onto the table so we can really narrow that in. Because ultimately, if the town doesn't see a rate reduction, it doesn't make sense for WCC, us to bring on another large customer and have all that risk. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the residents are gonna, the ratepayers are gonna want to see something.
Yeah.
For the large customer that we take on. I mean, they're all
As they
expecting.
should.
Yeah, they're all expecting to see something.
As they should.
And that's what we're trying to provide. And there's a lot of people who invested a lot of time in this.
Yeah, we can always look on Facebook and see if maybe we can find an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just said that on recording.
So, but
I'm trying to digest.
It's sarcasm.
Oh.
But-
I've learned so much on Facebook.
Sarcasm. I'm good at that.
But that's where that's at now. But I think discussions are going good. So we just need to keep it moving.
So you think it's positive at this time?
Yeah. There's got to be some more discussion. But I think ultimately,
But it-
both of us, I think both WCC and I think the town both want this to happen. We just got to find a way to make it happen.
So it does warrant to have the time and energy put into it?
Yes.
I think it'd be beneficial for the county, it'd be beneficial for the state of Indiana corrections, I think it'd be beneficial to us. It would definitely help.
It makes sense.
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense for them to come with us.
And, other than WCC, I'm trying to think of, that's a big utility, I mean, that's a big thing in utilities we've been ongoing working on for a long time now, probably 2 years. But it takes a lot of time to do engineering studies, first cost analysis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Any other, like, I know that one thing, we did form the beautification committee, and they've been doing a really good job of going after grants and stuff. That's something as a planning commission we struggle doing, so I think that's, I'm interested to see what the beautification, maybe next meeting we can see if they give us, you know, their vision for the year, you know, what their main projects are and how we can assist them. I think that would be good.
And talking about annexation, Charlie said that there's some money out there in the form of grants for helping the utilities to, like, with the part that we were looking at annexing, and he's going to, look into what Chesterton got. They got some money. And so, if that would be the case, then we have enough people involved that can write grants. We could write our grants to see if we get our money. If the grants are out there for us, available, we will write the grants to get that money. So I think that's a real critical part of this strategic planning that we've all got in mind. We may have to do some grant writing.
Yeah, and that, we gotta really, yeah. The trick,
we can do that.
yeah, trick is, too, is finding with utilities, is finding the grants that actually meet.
And that's what Charlie's talking about. These are the grants that have met the needs of utilities in Chesterton.
So.
And there's another area he was talking about that I just can't grasp right now. I think it was in Porter County someplace. So anyway, Charlie has that information. He's going to get it back to us. I think there's going to be another meeting called to talk about this, what they find with the taxes, asking questions about taxes raised and that sort of thing.
That's gonna be good information to have. One nice seller, if there is no tax impact on annexation.
And they were talking that that's a distinct possibility, that there won't be that much, is an impact, it would be very minimal.
Yeah.
So, because right now they're not paying very much at all. And it would be on the industry or whatever comes in, we may have to go ahead and get some type of tax abatement, but knowing that it's going to be for short term, that there will be some money coming in at a certain date.
New Carlisle gave Iron-Tech and Iron Coat a tax abatement, and now they're just raking in the tax dollars from them.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a small town that's just packed full of money.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, it's like, you know, feast and famine, or famine and feast. You know, it's something that you have to look at, you know, it's for the long term. It might hurt in the beginning, but for the long term, it's very effective for small communities. And for big ones.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. And he talked about TIF district too. The TIF district could be a viable option for it. So a lot of people are scared of TIF, the tax increment financing, but there's a lot of positive to that as well. It has to be done right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't have a little part of TIF over here, and then over here is another part of TIF. You know, people want to sort of spread it out. You have to have a plan. Again, you go back to, you use your strategic plan to make those things happen.
I think that's a good point.
Well, I just see a lot that's available to us. It's just the manpower and the time and the effort that's going to have to be spent to make it happen.
The big thing is, yep, well, we gotta take the time and do it. Speaking of manpower and on our planning commission itself, Jaron, I'm gonna bring this up too, but Jaron gave us his letter of resignation, if anybody wants to see this. Basically, you know, he's kind of reached out to an email to us previously. Right now his work schedule impacts him attending the meetings because he might be traveling different parts of Northwest Indiana. Jaron was definitely a good asset to our team on the planning commission, but We will have another seat open on the planning commission and also the VGA that we need to fill, and it is a Democrat seat. So that being said, if anybody has an idea on who would be a good replacement, what was it, Max?
Max.
If he is interested, that's somebody we could, I'll have to look at if that was a council appointed position or a planning commission appointed position.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
So do we need to accept his resignation tonight?
Yes.
I mean, okay, I'll make a motion that we'll accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Yeah, we'll
passed.
have to look and see what entity actually appoints that or recommends that position.
Yeah. I'll send that to Lori too, so she has it, because I know she keeps track of
Yeah.
all that. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
I was just gonna real quick, we talked about the beautification committee and some grants and things. At the last town board meeting, I had mentioned that we made it to the second phase of NIPSCO's grant process, and that First Source had approved us for a $15,000 grant, for Blue Line Park. I had just started the leadership course that the town board approved me to take. I'm in the 8th week. So the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, I got that all out, had a Making Spaces grant that was open. And with my time being tied up with this leadership course and the stuff, just manning the station and everything, I actually assigned Nate to open up the grant process with them and see if we could get approved with a grant for them. And we got approved.
Cool, congratulations.
So we set the goal, we have to set a goal. We set the goal at 15,000 because there's some fees. And what they do is they match all the money that we take in 6 weeks prior to opening the grant and up until the closing date, which includes First Source Bank. So they'll match up to $10,000 per donation. So they'll match $10,000 of First Sources, and then we just took in $1,000 from the correctional center. We've got another couple $500 donations, one that's coming in and one that just came in. So we go live in the next week or week and a half we go live, but our goal is already met because we set the goal of what we knew we had coming in. So with the fees and everything that will come out, I think we should be coming out somewhere around $11,500, $12,500 to go towards Blue Line Park.
That's awesome, congratulations.
So I was really proud of Nate. He did a fantastic job, and he's definitely a brainiac. He is one educated young man, so he did a great job.
Wonderful. Yay!
So just a little bit more. We have all the bills are paid. We've got the pavilions up, the concrete is poured. I have picnic tables, benches, and a bike rack sitting in Bubba's garage. All of that is paid. All the bills are paid, and we've got $7,500 in the donation account, $15,000 coming from First Source, and anywhere from $11,000 to $12,000 coming from this other grant. So we're really close to pulling it off. We're that close.
That's good.
Wonderful.
So I'll be real happy when I see playground equipment going in and kids playing.
Well, that's gonna be awesome.
Can I go up to play too?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, that'll be good for that area.
Oh, yeah, and with Dairy Queen right there in the summertime, that place will be back.
And there's some people that just haven't gotten a hold of us yet that said that they're interested in donating. So I think we're so close I can just smell it. So I hope that something comes through here pretty quick.
And if stuff starts going up more too, you might even see more come.
And I think the way it sounds like once this goes live, I think like it goes through all different networks, and like even Unity Foundation will be involved, and they'll send the information out to the people that are frequent donors that they deal with on a regular basis. So it will reach people well beyond Westville because we went through this grant process. It was quite a bit of work, and I sat down with Nate quite a few times, and talked over things with him, and the kid really did a fantastic job.
Wonderful.
And he smiled the whole time doing it. I don't think I've ever seen anybody smile as much as he does.
That is awesome.
So, we're getting there. The only thing I'm lacking, I think, is landscaping. Johnston says volunteer, but holy cow, is he busy.
Yeah.
That is one busy person.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much, I know how much he wants to do, I just don't know how much he actually can do.
Yeah.
Not that it's any of his fault, yeah, he's just swamped.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll make the time. Especially maybe after the season break.
Yeah.
Now we can snowplow mode.
Yeah. He is I don't think he ever stops.
Could probably call him like 4 in the morning, he's probably up there. So, no,
Doesn't he have an entire crew that works for them though?
Yeah, I think he has trouble keeping, I think he's got a few people, he's always got some turnover, so he ends up shorthanded, and then he's gotta take up the slack.
They do good work though. Yeah. So, good job, Darren.
Thank you, sir.
Tell Nate that too.
Nate would be with me at the next town board meeting, I was gonna let the town board know what was going on. I wanted to have him come in and smack him in the back of the head, tell him good job.
Any other updates or? We got some fun projects.
Yeah,
Forward-looking projects you can get with, so. I'm gonna have fun with the zoning, so. It's gonna be exciting. It actually is kinda neat going through, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Kinda helps you out too when you got people asking questions. Like they, you go through the zoning ordinance and you can respond quickly. I think the zoning ordinance though, I think is gonna be so clean, it's gonna help. There shouldn't be nearly as many questions asked.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, I agree.
With all the charts and pictures. So,
It's something that we really need. I'm glad it's happening. And thank you again.
well, thank you. Appreciate everyone here, this is really good. So with that, if there's nothing else on the agenda, I'd like anyone to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good stuff, guys.
Hold on, I'm supposed to ask you something.
What?